know that feeling when you've worked for years to finally afford a quiet home, away from all the chaos and only for someone to turn that peace into a nightmare? Yeah, that was me. I'd just bought my dream place, a small, single-story house with a big backyard, two-car garage, and a little workshop I built myself. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. After a decade of renting, apartments and dealing with paper-thin walls and noisy neighbors, owning something felt like a breath of freedom. But then came Karen. She lived 2 houses down. The first time I met her, she was smiling, the kind of smile that feels rehearsed, like it's covering a complaint waiting to happen. "Hi, I'm Karen, head of the HOA," she said, holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. "Just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood." I thanked her and told her I was excited to be there, but she didn't come empty-handed. Oh no, she handed me a packet of community regulations thicker than a phone book. "Just a few rules to keep our neighborhood beautiful," she said, emphasizing beautiful like she already doubted my ability to keep it that way. I didn't think much of it. I'm a pretty chill guy. I mow my lawn, keep things clean, mind my own business. But Karen, she minded everyone's business. For the first few weeks, she sent me polite notes, reminders, she called them, about things like trash bin placement, my grass height, even the color of my mailbox. It was annoying, but whatever. I didn't want to start drama. Then one afternoon, as I was working in my garage, she marched up my driveway, phone in hand, recording. "Excuse me," she snapped. "This structure is not compliant with HOA standards." I looked up from under the hood of my old Chevy. "What structure?" "This garage," she said, pointing like she was uncovering a crime scene. "It's not authorized. You'll need to remove it immediately." I laughed, thinking she was joking. "Karen, this garage came with the house. It's literally on the property listing." She smirked. "No, it's not. The previous owner added it without proper approval. It encroaches on HOA-maintained land." That word, encroaches, sounded too official. My stomach tightened. "You're saying this garage isn't on my land?" I asked. "Exactly," she said. "So, we'll need you to tear it down within 30 days or face fines of up to $500 per week." My jaw dropped. "I'm not tearing down my garage, Karen." "Well, then I'll have to escalate this," she said, her smile returning, cold, satisfied. And she did. The next week I got a letter from the HOA board demanding I remove an unapproved structure encroaching on community property. They even attached a blurry map that didn't look like anything I'd ever seen. At that point, I decided enough was enough. I went down to the county records office to check the property lines myself. The clerk there, a woman named Judy, pulled up the plat map. "You're at 842 Maple, right?" "My property," I said simply. "So, unless you want to start paying me rent for that part of your backyard, I suggest you take it down." She scoffed. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm dead serious," I said. "And if the HOA wants to keep playing games, I'll be sending this," I held up the deed, "to every member of the board, the county assessor, and maybe even a lawyer." For the first time since I moved in, Karen didn't have a comeback. She just stood there, red-faced and shaking, before storming off to her house. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong, because that night, someone left a note on my front door. No envelope. Just block letters written in black marker. "You'll regret this." And that's when things started getting really ugly. When I saw that note on my front door, "You'll regret this," I laughed at first. It was so childish, like something out of a middle school drama. But later that night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I hadn't done any wrong. All I'd done was stand up for myself. Still, there was something unsettling about knowing someone had been close enough to my door to leave it there without me noticing. The next morning, my security camera caught someone walking up my driveway around midnight. The footage was grainy, but I could make out the shape of a person. Tall, slim, wearing a hoodie. They tore something off my mailbox and walked away. When I checked, the HOA violation sticker Karen had slapped on there last week was gone. In its place, someone had scratched the words, "liar," into the paint. That's when I stopped laughing. I went straight to the police station. The officer on duty took my statement but didn't sound convinced. "Sounds like a neighborhood dispute," he said, shrugging. "These things usually work themselves out." "Yeah, unless someone decides to take it further," I said. He gave me a sympathetic smile. Just keep recording everything. Paper trail's your best friend in cases like this. And that's exactly what I did. Over the next few weeks, things got tense. Karen started acting like she owned the whole street. She'd stop dog walkers to gossip about me, telling them I'd moved in illegally or that I was suing the HOA. Every time I stepped outside, I could feel eyes watching me from behind curtains. One morning, I woke up to find orange spray paint across the side of my garage. One word, remove. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just pettiness anymore. It was personal. I filed a vandalism report, then called a lawyer. The guy I hired, Tom Briggs, was calm, confident, and way too excited about HOA cases. "Oh, I love these people," he said, chuckling. "Half of them think they're running a mini-government. Let's teach them a little civics." I showed him the deed, the aerial overlay, and the letters from the HOA. His eyes lit up. "This is gold. Your property line is clean, and Karen's fence and pergola squarely on your land." He leaned back, smiling. "My property," I said simply. "So, unless you want to start paying me rent for that part of your backyard, I suggest you take it down." She scoffed. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm dead serious," I said. "And if the HOA wants to keep playing games, I'll be sending this," I held up the deed, "to every member of the board, the county assessor, and maybe even a lawyer." For the first time since I moved in, Karen didn't have a comeback. She just stood there, red-faced and shaking, before storming off to her house. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong, because that night, someone left a note on my front door. No envelope. Just block letters written in black marker. "You'll regret this." And that's when things started getting really ugly. When I saw that note on my front door, "You'll regret this," I laughed at first. It was so childish, like something out of a middle school drama. But later that night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I hadn't done any wrong. All I'd done was stand up for myself. Still, there was something unsettling about knowing someone had been close enough to my door to leave it there without me noticing. The next morning, my security camera caught someone walking up my driveway around midnight. The footage was grainy, but I could make out the shape of a person. Tall, slim, wearing a hoodie. They tore something off my mailbox and walked away. When I checked, the HOA violation sticker Karen had slapped on there last week was gone. In its place, someone had scratched the words, "liar," into the paint. That's when I stopped laughing. I went straight to the police station. The officer on duty took my statement but didn't sound convinced. "Sounds like a neighborhood dispute," he said, shrugging. "These things usually work themselves out." "Yeah, unless someone decides to take it further," I said. He gave me a sympathetic smile. "Just keep recording everything. Paper trail's your best friend in cases like this." And that's exactly what I did. Over the next few weeks, things got tense. Karen started acting like she owned the whole street. She'd stop dog walkers to gossip about me, telling them I'd moved in illegally or that I was suing the HOA. Every time I stepped outside, I could feel eyes watching me from behind curtains. One morning, I woke up to find orange spray paint across the side of my garage. One word, remove. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just pettiness anymore. It was personal. I filed a vandalism report, then called a lawyer. The guy I hired, Tom Briggs, was calm, confident, and way too excited about HOA cases. "Oh, I love these people," he said, chuckling. "Half of them think they're running a mini-government. Let's teach them a little civics." I showed him the deed, the aerial overlay, and the letters from the HOA. His eyes lit up. "This is gold. Your property line is clean, and Karen's fence and pergola squarely on your land." He leaned back, smiling. "You've got leverage, my friend." I didn't want revenge, at least not at first. I just wanted peace. So Tom drafted a polite but firm cease and desist letter to Karen and the HOA, demanding they stop harassing me and remove any structures encroaching on my property within 30 days. A week later, the HOA held an emergency board meeting. I wasn't invited, but Karen made sure I knew about it. She left a copy of the meeting notice in my mailbox with a sticky note. "We'll see who's right soon." That night, I could hear voices coming from her backyard, loud, angry ones. It sounded like the board wasn't too thrilled about being dragged into a legal mess. I caught bits of their conversation through the open window. "Karen, you said it was community property. Now it's a lawsuit. I'm telling you, that garage wasn't on the original. Enough, Karen, we can't afford another legal bill. It was music to my ears. A few days later, Tom got a letter from the HOA's lawyer. It was full of legal fluff, basically saying they'd review the claim and request a new property survey. But that was fine by me. The more they dug, the worse it'd get for them. Meanwhile, Karen got quieter. Too quiet. No more notes. No more yelling. Just this eerie silence every time I passed her house. Then one morning, I found survey stakes hammered into the ground near her fence. Bright orange ones with neon ribbon. The county surveyor was back, measuring the boundary. I walked out and waved. He smiled. "Hey there! You the owner of 842? Yep, that's me." "Well," he said, checking his clipboard. "Looks like the board requested a recheck of the property line, but, he gave a small smirk. They're not gonna like what I found." "What's that?" He pointed to the line of stakes. "Her fence, her flower bed, and that fancy pergola? All 3 feet into your property, maybe more." I couldn't help grinning. "Can I get that in writing?" "Already done," he said, handing me a copy. When I got back inside, I sent photos of the survey and report to Tom. He called me almost instantly. "Congratulations," he said. "You officially own part of Karen's backyard." I laughed, but then he added, "And we're going to use it." He drafted a formal notice of encroachment, giving Karen 30 days to either remove her fence and structures or pay a monthly rental fee for using that land. When I slipped the notice under her door, I could practically feel the air go electric. That evening, she came storming down my driveway, red-faced and furious. "You can't do this to me!" she shouted. "I'm not doing anything to you," I said calmly. "I'm just protecting what's mine. The law says your fence and pergola are on my property. You've got a month to fix it." She glared at me, trembling. "You're ruining this neighborhood." "No, Karen," I said. "You're just not used to someone standing up to you." She looked like she wanted to hit me, but instead she spun on her heel and marched away. 2 days later, construction noise started early in the morning. Loud sawing, hammering, and shouting. I looked out the window and saw Karen's fence coming down piece by piece. She didn't even look at me as the workers loaded her precious pergola onto a flatbed. I should have felt satisfied. But instead I felt hollow. All of this, the fights, the letters, the vandalism, over a few feet of land. Then, as if fate wanted to remind me what kind of person she really was, I saw her car later that day. It was parked in front of my driveway, blocking me completely. I walked out calmly and knocked on her window. She rolled it down just enough to speak. "You happy now?" she hissed. "You got what you wanted." "Hope it was worth it." I took a deep breath. "Karen, I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to be left alone." "But you couldn't do that, could you?" Her eyes were glassy. "You humiliated me." "You did that to yourself," I said quietly. She started her car, revved the engine, and peeled away, leaving tire marks right across my driveway. For the first time since moving in, I didn't feel angry. I just felt tired. I thought that was the end. I thought I could finally move on. But about a week later, I got a call from Tom. "You might want to sit down," he said. "Karen filed a complaint with the county, claiming you falsified documents." "What?" I nearly dropped my phone. "Yeah," he sighed. "But the funny thing is, in doing that, she submitted her own property records, which show something interesting about her house." "What do you mean?" Tom's tone shifted. "Let's just say, it looks like her home isn't entirely on her lot either." I blinked. "You're saying—" He chuckled. "I'm saying, according to the deed, part of her house sits on your land." My jaw dropped. That's when I realized this wasn't over. Not sure. When Tom told me that part of Karen's house was sitting on my property, I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He sent over the documentation that afternoon. Clean, official, stamped by the county. The line on the survey map didn't lie. Her garage and part of her living room extended about 2 feet over the boundary. I stared at it in disbelief. After everything she'd done, the fines, the threats, the vandalism, it turned out she was the one trespassing the entire time. It felt surreal, like karma had been quietly waiting, patient and merciless. Tom laughed when I called him. "Oh, this is poetic," he said. "We could technically force her to tear down that part of her house, but I recommend something smarter." I leaned back in my chair. "I'm listening." He paused, his voice calm but firm. Let's give her a choice. Either she signs a boundary adjustment, agreement, and compensates you for the land use, or we file a property claim. That'll drag her into court, cost her tens of thousands in legal fees, and potentially get her home condemned. For a moment, I didn't say anything. I wasn't a cruel person. I did want to destroy her life, just to make her stop destroying mine. But then I remembered the spray paint on my garage. The "you'll regret this" note. The way she turned the whole neighborhood against me. Send her the offer, I said quietly. The next morning, Tom personally delivered the letter. I watched from my window as he walked up Karen's driveway in his crisp gray suit, a thick envelope in hand. She opened the door, already frowning. They spoke for maybe 3 minutes. Then Tom handed her the papers and left. She stood there for a long time, frozen. Later that evening, she showed up at my door. No clipboard, no phone, no fake smile. Just Karen. Her eyes were red. You can't possibly mean this, she said, voice trembling. I do, I said evenly. I'm not asking for anything unreasonable. Just what's mine. You're trying to ruin me, she snapped. No, I said. I tried to live peacefully. You tried to ruin me. And now you're facing the same rules you used to threaten everyone else with. She took a shaky breath. If I pay you for the land, how much? Tom had already calculated it. Fair market value, plus a small penalty for illegal encroachment. It wasn't outrageous, but it wasn't pocket change either. I told her the number. Her face went pale. That's more than I have, she whispered. I sighed. Then you might need to remove the part of your house that's sitting on my land. For a moment, I thought she might hit me. Her hands balled into fists. Then her shoulders slumped and she turned away. I'll figure something out. She walked home slowly, like the air itself was heavy. For the next few days, the neighborhood went quiet again. But this time, the silence felt different. People started avoiding Karen. A few even came by my place to apologize for believing her rumors. Honestly, one neighbor said, we all thought she was just overzealous. Didn't realize she was harassing you like that. I just smiled and said it was fine. But inside, it felt like the whole block had finally woken up. A week later, Tom called. She agreed to settle, he said. I blinked. Seriously? Yep. Her husband wired the money this morning. She's signing the boundary adjustment tomorrow. I should have felt triumphant, and part of me did. But when I hung up, I felt something else too, pity. Because I'd seen her face that night. The anger had burned out of her eyes, replaced by shame. Maybe she finally realized how far she'd gone, how small all that control really made her. Still, peace finally returned to Maple Street. Or so I thought. 2 weeks later, I woke up to sirens. Fire trucks lined the street. Smoke billowed from the direction of Karen's house. I ran outside in my slippers. Flames were crawling up one side of her garage. Her husband stood in the driveway, shouting into his phone while firefighters hauled hoses across the lawn. Karen was sitting on the curb, wrapped in a blanket, staring blankly at the flames. Everyone okay? I asked. She looked up, dazed. Electrical fire, she murmured. It started in the wall. Luckily, they got it under control before it reached the rest of the house. No one was hurt, but the damage was bad. For the first time, I didn't see her as HOA Karen. I just saw a person whose life was unraveling. Later that day, while the fire department cleared the scene, I walked over. She didn't look at me until I spoke. I'm sorry, I said softly. That's rough. She nodded weakly. Yeah, guess I had it coming. I shook my head. No one deserves that. For a long time, we sat there in silence, just the sound of crackling wood and distant sirens fading. Finally, she spoke. You know, she said quietly, I started this HOA thing to make the neighborhood better. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about that. It became about control. I looked at her. People make mistakes, Karen. What matters is what you do next. She nodded slowly. I don't think I'll be head of the HOA much longer. Maybe that's for the best, I said gently. When I stood up to leave, she grabbed my arm. Thank you, she said. And for once, I believed she meant it. Over the next month, the HOA restructured. Karen resigned. A younger couple took over. People who actually cared about the community, not just rules. They invited everyone for a neighborhood barbecue, And to my surprise, even Karen showed up. She looked different, tired but lighter somehow. She walked up to me, holding a small envelope. "I wanted you to have this," she said. Inside was a handwritten note. "I was wrong. About you, about the garage, about everything. You taught me something I should have learned years ago. That pride costs more than humility. Thank you for standing your ground." I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled and shook her hand. That day, for the first time since I'd moved in, Maple Street felt like home. Months passed. The garage still stood, freshly repainted. My backyard was quiet again. And the little plot of land that had started all the chaos? It became a garden, a patch of green I tended every weekend. One evening, I was out there watering the plants when Karen walked by with her dog. She waved. "Nice tomatoes," she said. I chuckled. "Better than your HOA roses?" She laughed, genuinely this time. "I'll give you that." And just like that, the war was over. But here's the thing. This story isn't really about Karen. It's about how easy it is for anyone to let ego take over. She wanted control. I wanted peace. Both of us fought so hard to be right that we forgot what being good neighbors even meant. In the end, the deed didn't just prove she was on my land. It proved something else. That standing your ground doesn't mean being cruel. It means being calm, being smart, and letting the truth do the heavy lifting. Because no matter how loud the noise gets, truth has a way of settling everything. Hell, if you've ever dealt with Karen, or someone who tries to push you around just because they think they can, remember this. You don't have to fight with anger. You don't have to stoop to their level. You just need proof, patience, and persistence. And when karma finally circles back, you won't have to lift a finger, because the truth always builds stronger foundations than hate ever will.